Over GTA Online's approximate 11-year lifespan, we have gotten numerous new vehicles added, with a decent amount of them being new aircrafts. Multiple new helicopters have come out over the past couple of years, and I feel that with the new releases of, helicopters or just, things like the Raichu, a lot of older vehicles just get overlooked. And one of those in particular, in my opinion, is the Savage. The Savage is renowned for being one of the most crazy helicopters in the game because of one reason only, and that is the explosive MG that is slapped right on the front of it. When you go onto Warstock Cash and Carry, you'll find the Savage at the dead bottom, as Warstock Cash and Carry goes from the most recent, added to the game, to the oldest. And as you can see, you got to scroll pretty far to get to the Savage. The Savage came out with the Heist update. If you don't know what the Heist update, those are the original heists added that you start within your apartment. You can buy it for 2.6 mil, or you can get the trade price by doing the Pacific Standard Convoy as a leader for just under 2 mil. And for just under 2 mil, this helicopter is actually crazy. Now, the Savage isn't like any, ordinary new aircraft where you buy it and it goes just straight into your hangar storage. Well, because of its age, you got to go into your phone and call up good old Pegasus. Many people don't like Pegasus that much, but when you call it, you'll see that if you own other Pegasus vehicles, you will have this big list come up. When you go to helicopter, you'll see any helicopters that you own, and you'll see right there you can call the Savage in for $0, which I would wish after, buying it. And if you're in the military base, you'll see it'll spawn right down there. Now, once you call it in, it's not like, your ordinary personal aircraft where you can just go into the menu and, call it in. You have to go onto your phone, like I said. But once I do acquire my Savage, if I do own a hangar, which many of you probably do, you can easily just get in it and fly it on over to your hangar and bring it on in. Now, this will put it into your storage. This will also make it now a personal aircraft that you can call in through the menu, making it way easier to acquire it as you don't have to pull out your phone and call Pegasus. A pretty cool thing, though, about that feature is you can call Pegasus as many times as you want and just, stockpile your whole hangar full of Savages. Now, when you do get the Savage in, if you do have the workshop, you can hop in it and modify it, but all it does is, you can change, the color. Primary color is the top, which, as you can see, the camo still applies, but when you go all black, you can't really see it. And then the secondary color, as you guessed probably, is the bottom. Now, you can remove it, but removing it, all it does is just get rid of it. It just removes it from your hangar and makes it not a personal vehicle. There's no trick around this where, you can sell it and get money. That's not possible. The first way I'm going to show this off to you is I'm going to show the explosive MG cannon's power against the Terabyte, and I'm also going to compare it to the Raichu's explosive cannons. So you can see, I just called my Terabyte in. You got your explosive cannon right here, and you'll see it will absolutely shred this thing. So as you can see, starting the cannon, the Terabyte is one of the most, armored vehicles in the game. As you can see, it just shredded it. Now, yes, it still took a while, but like I said, the Terabyte is one of the most armored things in the game. Moving on into the Raichu now, you will easily be able to tell the difference just by this. Just by the time it takes. So let's start shooting this. As you can see, the Savage was moving this thing like crazy, and the Raichu can't even move it. All it's doing is like setting the side on fire. If this doesn't, oh, there you go, there it's exposed. If that doesn't show you just how more powerful that explosive cannon is. Now, if you couldn't tell just from that, example there, just look at the blast difference between this and, the Raichu's cannons. Every, explosion you see on the ground there is the same damage equivalent to that of an RPG. So pretty much, put this into perspective. Every time you see me shoot the ground here, it is the same damage as an RPG. Now, if you see the amount of explosions that are going on, that is a lot of damage. I mean, if you look at the cars on the ground there, you'll see that they literally just pretty much get melted into bits and pieces. Now, if you are able to aim effectively with this helicopter, you, with no doubt, will be doing a lot of damage no matter what the situation is. Another big positive to the Savage is because it's a Pegasus vehicle, you can go right up to your desk and you can call it in through your assistant. Now, it will cost you $3,000, but honestly, $3,000 in GTA's money today is pretty easy to get, considering you can do, the ammunition delivery and get money from that. When you do call the Savage in for $3,000, you'll wait a little bit and then it will play this screen right here of you taking off in the helicopter. Not only is this helicopter, equipped with an explosive cannon, it also has homing and non-homing missiles, which will come in handy, anytime. It's always nice to have homing missiles on a vehicle. And, these missiles are pretty much just like any other missiles in the game. This helicopter is great for, PvP, PvE, anything in general. Taking out armored vehicles, killing enemies on the ground, just doing anything really. I mean, it's really hard to combat this. I can admit, there has been times where somebody has, killed me while doing something, and, we got in a little battle, and I was able to get in this thing and just keep killing them on ground. Now, what's so great about it is because it is a helicopter with this type of cannon, if they spawn right there, you can fly and blow them up. If they then spawn right over here, you can fly right over and just spam the cannon and blow them up. And because it is the same as an RPG, you're pretty much just shooting a bunch of RPGs out of this helicopter at once. And, dodging an RPG already is pretty difficult to do. Now, another very good thing about this helicopter is it's not a one-seater or two-seater helicopter. It's a four-seater helicopter. And, you might be saying, well, the Buzzard is too. But what makes it even better is, like the Buzzard, the people on the sides there, they can use machine guns as they'd like. Most weapons in their weaponry. But the person that sits behind you can actually use unguided RPGs, which is really cool. Another positive is the missiles have no cooldown. You can just spam, spam, spam. Now, with every strength, comes a weakness. And while this explosive cannon does great, it does have pretty minimum range. As you can see, you do have to get pretty darn close to, kill enemies. I'm right up here and it's not reaching that highway down there. So it is a pretty big drawback. Another drawback is it really only takes, one missile. After one missile, you'll be smoking and, the engine will be cutting out and you'll be struggling to fly a little bit. After, two missiles, I think it just blows up or it just fails. So, that is also a downside. I wouldn't really call the speed a downside for, the size and, if you take it into accountability, what the weaponry on this, the speed is kind of decent. It goes about 150 miles per hour, I think. So the speed isn't that bad. But what is a big drawback along with, the other ones is it's very heavy. Like, it is a very heavy helicopter and you can feel it while flying it. If you get in yourself, in a situation where you're flying down low, it is going to be very hard to pull up and, maneuver out of your way. It's not a very maneuverable helicopter. But is it a pretty big drawback? Kind of, because if you find yourself, diving to the ground, to get that explosive range of the cannon to hit the ground, you're going to find yourself in a predicament where you won't be able to slow down fast enough and you will pretty much face plant into the ground, which is a very big downside. Another downside is it doesn't have any countermeasures to it. So pretty much if you get locked on by a missile, you just got to say a prayer and hope you can, outmaneuver or just get away from it, because there's no countermeasures, no chaff, no nothing. So it is a pretty big downside considering the fact it only really takes two missiles to blow up. Now, it is a very overpowered helicopter for, PvP and everything in general. And while the drawbacks, are really annoying, it still makes it a very overpowered helicopter just because of the explosive cannon itself. But I would like to see Rockstar do a little bit of a buff to it. The reason I say that is there's not many helicopters in the game that really can do what this does. They buffed the Hydra laser and the Raichu's cannon. Same with the B-11. They're all the new, weaker, slower firing ones, and they don't have this type of cannon anymore. And what's a shame about it is you don't have it on the jets anymore, but you have it on this helicopter that you can't upgrade. And the reason I say I wish you could upgrade it Adding some armor to it to make it take more missiles would be nice. Adding countermeasures to it would be nice. And especially adding better handling would make this thing so much better. Now, the thing is it's not a cheap helicopter. 2 mil trade price, and that's if you do the original heist completely as a leader, is pretty lengthy of a task. 2.6 mil is also not a cheap price. It's expensive, and most people would opt to just save more money and get something like a Raichu. But it's the same case in this helicopter as it is with the Buzzard. You'd like to see those upgrades. If you catch somebody off guard, you're definitely going to get them, but if they see you first, you're pretty much going to be dead. But like I said before, there's a decent amount of, setbacks, but I think the setbacks and the, positives kind of cancel each other out. Being able to upgrade this thing, though, would mean, make it better. And I don't know if Rockstar will do that. And I really think Rockstar is missing out on a very easy update to do, as I think a lot of people would really like to see not only an update to this, but also maybe even the Buzzard. These are considered outdated in terms of, today's standards when it comes to stuff. Well, yes, this does have, the crazy cannon. There's other things that can easily take this out. It would be very nice to see some flares, better handling, and definitely, some better armor on this. Maybe even armor paired with like the Akula. The Akula armor it's not the best, but it's decent. It's decent enough to take, a couple missiles. I think a lot of people would also like to see, a buff, quote unquote, to also the Buzzard. The Buzzard is also it's a good helicopter, but it has drawbacks that in today's standards just don't work out as well. Being able to only shoot 2 missiles out of a helicopter, out of a jet like the Raichu, being able to shoot 2 and then have a cooldown, that's perfectly fine. But in the Buzzard, it just doesn't fit. At least make it 4 or something. It would be very nice, and I think a lot of people would like to add armor to that. But like I said before, there are downsides, but the positives also, counteract it. I would like to see, maybe an update to this and also the Buzzard, like I was saying, as I think a lot of people would like to just add some more to these 2 helicopters, as in today's terms, with the Akula and the Hunter and many other things like the Raichu, sometimes it just doesn't stand a chance. But I think that will do it. If you made it to the end of the video, thank you very much for watching. Hit that like button if you enjoyed. Hit that dislike button if you didn't. Comment down below, your thoughts, opinions. And if you aren't already, please hit that subscribe button. It means a lot to me. But that'll do it for this video, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace out.